Hi guys! Time games are essential to use when working on motion graphics. They can save you lots of time reversing, slowing, or accelerating an animation. There are very powerful methods within After Effects that you can use to manipulate time with a motion graphics animation. In this section, we will learn how to reverse an animation using the keyframes and reverse layer methods. The keyframes method, I will say, is a revision to cement your learning. You will learn also the concept of time remap and how to remap the time of an animation. You will learn how to use the time stretch or the time shrink methods if you like. Pretty amazing stuff. If you follow along carefully, your practice activity will be simple but quite a learning experience. So let's make some time for the next lecture. Welcome to the first lecture in time reverse. You are going to see several methods here, and of course you are going to choose which one you prefer and which one you want to use. But make sure that you use all of them because I want you to become an expert in After Effects. If you want to follow along with me, guys, please open the After Effects project start-timegamesmotiongraphics.aep. This contains everything that you are going to work on without any animation and without what we are going to do. So you can follow along very easily. The first time reverse that we are going to see in this lecture is about reversing through keyframes. Now, I already did that in a previous lecture in the beginning of the course, but if you skip the lecture or you completely forgot, we can try again here. I will be quite speedy in it. Let's take the first animation. It's a simple animation of a lower third here. I double click to open it. Now notice here the animation has 3 layers only, and they are sequenced in a certain way, and they have their keyframes and they are easy eased. So after some time, let's say you don't want this animation to stay and you want to reverse it. And then I will select all the layers, press U once and twice to make sure that I'm looking at all the keyframes and they are appearing in front of me. Now you can start by selecting the keyframes of a certain layer here. You just click on the property that has keyframes and you select all the keyframes. And the trick here is to use Ctrl+C or Command+C on the Mac to copy these keyframes, and then you come after some time, let's say 4 seconds. This is where you want the animation to start coming out, and you Ctrl+V or Command+V on the Mac. As simple as this. Go on to the next one, Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V. Third one, Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V. Okay. Now, the exit animation is not correct now because it's still coming. Now, the first thing you want to do is to reverse the keyframes order. If you select them all, you right-click and you say Keyframe Assistant, and Time Reverse Keyframes is at the bottom. Now they just interchange a position here because they are just 2 keyframes. And you notice here you have nothing now because this keyframe is identical to this one. You reverse this 2, and if you scrub through, now you have an exit animation. But the exit animation, the way I've done it here, they are all coming at the same time. To make it identical, you need to create the same slanting here, or the pyramid, I will call it. So let's keep the first layer the way it is. I will select the second layer, the 2 keyframes. In fact, I will select both of them and move them. Now there is a way to be a bit more precise. If you come over here and you go to the in point of the second layer, here you are, it is at 10 frames. And the in point of the third layer here, it's at 20 frames, which makes this layer, separated by 10 frames each. Cool. So I come to this keyframe and go plus 10 frames. Now you are sure that these 2 keyframes are really identical in timing as the entry. Here you are. Then from here, I will go plus 10. Okay. And then select these 2 and just click on the first one and move them to this side. Now, if you play your animation, it's a very nice animation now. It comes in, it waits a moment, and it comes out. Cool, very nice. Now, if you want it longer, of course, you have set them up. You can decide, okay, I can select them all and move them to anywhere you want. Okay, guys? So actually, this is the reverse using keyframe. It's very easy, very simple. I know I went too fast, but you already seen this several times. But I want to make sure that this section is valid at any time when you come to this course, and it refreshes your memory a bit about the keyframes reverse. In the previous lecture, guys, we have created a reverse animation using the keyframes for this in and out lower third over here. I hope the experience was good. If you don't remember it, please go back and review it. By the way, if you want to follow along, please open the After Effects project file, start-timegamesmotiongraphics.aap, of course. And then you can follow along. There is no work, only the lower thirds and the titles. Fine, let's focus now on the second animation over here. So this animation is coming in and then it doesn't come out. So we want to create a reverse animation. So I will double click and open the pre-comp. So this animation has two nested pre-composition here and some layers with some keyframes. So you know, reversing it through keyframes is going to be very hard. You have to go inside the pre-comps. We are going to use now the method of time reverse layer to reverse the animation and make an in and out for this beautiful animation here. Let me explain to you first of all about the time reverse layer. Let's take this layer. If you right click, you go to time and you have the option here, time-reverse layer. Fine. Let's take this layer and duplicate it. Ctrl D. Then I press U to see its keyframe. The original layer has the keyframes just in the beginning, maybe at 16 or 20 frames, 19 frames over here. If you right click and go to time reverse layer, here you are. Notice what's happening. The layer, first of all, has this oblique small lines here. I'm trying to zoom in. It means this layer has been reversed. Then you notice how the keyframes came at the end here. And the last keyframe on the reverse layer is the first keyframe. And the second last is the second keyframe here. And it would have gone on if you had many keyframes. Now, if you notice here, the animation, instead of coming in, is coming out. Look at the shape layer over here. So actually, it's coming out. Okay, but of course, we can see the bottom one. So I will take this one and put it here. So notice how the animation is coming out now instead of coming in. So actually, it has reversed our layer and has reversed the keyframes. Fine, let's delete here. It's not possible to start reversing every single layer here. It's a lot of work. The best way is to pre-compose. You create a pre-composition and you reverse the pre-composition as a layer. Before we pre-compose, I'd like to ask you, here the animation stops. Now there are some decisions that you want to take. Do you want all these 4 seconds doing nothing? Or maybe you want to stop at 4 seconds only and, you know, cut off the 3 remaining seconds so you have something concise and compact to work with, and the idle time is manageable. 7 seconds is too long. So let's cut it at 4 seconds and pre-compose and make a pre-composition 4 seconds long only. How do you do that? Well, you select all your layers and then you have the shortcut that you know very well now is Alt right square bracket to trim all the layers from the time indicator to the end of the comp. Here you are. Now that they are trimmed, you come back, right click and say pre-compose. Let's click on pre-compose. There's a very interesting option here that I always keep checked. Adjust composition duration to the time span of the selected layers. It's going to take the time span of the longest layer in time, of course. And we create a composition that is equal in time for the longest layer here. If I click OK, here you are. You created a pre-comp that is only 4 seconds long. Let's start duplicating and creating the time reverse. First of all, I'll duplicate the layer, Ctrl D. Then I will take the bottom layer. I like taking the bottom layers. You can take the top layer if you like. You right click, go to time and time reverse layer. The small oblique lines have appeared, so this layer is reversed. So first the animation comes in. This is the original animation. And we know it ends around 207, 208 here. And then you continue. Now they are on top of each other. Notice what's happening here. There is some kind of brightness coming up because of the opacity and 2 layers on top of each other. They are compositing. Then if you continue here, you know very well, before 19 seconds of the end of the second layer, the animation is gonna go out. First decision, how long you want the animation to be? Maybe 5 seconds, or you want to keep it at 7 seconds. There is a lot of idle time here. Let's agree on 5 seconds, okay? So I press shift and snap it to the timeline indicator. You are at 5 seconds. We don't want this overlap because this overlap is creating problems. Second decision is to decide where you are going to trim the layers left and right So they join at 100% at the same frame. For example, let's come to 208. I prefer, let's say 215, that will be secure. Take the first layer, the bottom one, and snap it to the timeline indicator. Here you are. When I'm having a problem, even pressing shift. Nevertheless, it's okay. Let's see what's going to happen. Take the top one and also snap it. Now, this is not enough, okay? You need to zoom in and make sure that they are snapping at the right frame here. No frame plus, notice what's happening, okay? And no frame minus, notice what's happening, okay? So be very sure that you have checked this. Otherwise, when you're compiling your project and like, okay, I have black here or I have, double animation. Let's put it exactly at 100% at the same frame. So now you're done, and let's play. Is it working? Animation comes in, some time, cool, animation comes out. Well, I like it. The timing is not bad. I would suggest also that you can use time remap, you will learn later, to retime this animation. Another decision comes here. Do you really want this blank space here? Surely not. Let's go back to the main composition and you notice, yeah, true, you still have 7 seconds here, but then after that, there is nothing. Do you want this dead time? Well, most of the time, what you would like to do is to trim it off. So we'll come to the out point of the second layer and press N to bring the work area end to the timeline indicator. Right click and trim comp to work area. You have a perfect composition now with an in out. Here you are, comes in and comes out just at the end. Fine, very cool, 100%. Now, of course, you have a blank space here in the main composition or in your main project. You want just to select all of them and just bring them to the out point of the last layer. This is about time reverse layer. It's very easy to use and very, useful when you want to create this kind of animations. This method will work. Remember, time, reverse layer, and use it as much as you can. Welcome to time remap. Time remap is a method in After Effects that is extremely powerful. It allows you to play with time within your compositions and your layers, and anything that you need to make it longer in time or shorter, you can use time remap. It also has the ability to keyframe time. Let's see how it works. I will use this composition here. This is LT2. And I will stay in the folder LT2 here. So if I create a pre-comp, it stays within the folder itself. This is an animation that is an entry and has no exit. So let's double click and see exactly what's made from. You notice here you have 3 pre-composition. So actually, if you want to work on it with the techniques that we have used before, it's going to be hard. The best way is to use time remap. I'll show you how. Let's look at the animation, and you notice at 3 seconds here, the animation has completed totally. Okay, fine. So how about if we pre-compose and we take only 3 seconds? Remember how we did that in the previous texture? Selected all our layers, we positioned at 3 seconds, and we use the Alt or Option on the Mac and the right square bracket to trim all the layers from the time indicator to the end. Then we came over here and we said, okay, let's create now a pre-composition. And we made sure that adjust composition duration to the time span of the selected layer is checked. And of course, it's going to take 3 seconds because this is the maximum time on the longest layer. Click OK. Let's start applying the time remap. You can come to your layer, right click and go to time. And you have here enable time remapping. That's the time remap. If you enable it, here you are. That's what happened here. The time remap method is already here. You can call it a property now. But you notice it does not belong to any group here. It's not under effects or anything. It's just by its own. And then 2 keyframes have been created and the layer has been extended to the end of the composition. So what's the object of time remap? Time remap will help you remap the time of the layer, in this case is a composition, to the timeline that you are working with. For example, let's take the last keyframe here. This keyframe is set at the end plus 1 frame of the composition. It's set at 3 seconds and 0.1 frame. So if you open pre-comp here, Okay, you notice that the end, okay, I press end, it has 3 seconds. But also there is an extra frame here, is the blank frame. This is a very important frame in case you want to stop your animation or you want it to disappear, just like this. If you fix this one, you put it to 3 seconds. Now, of course, you stop at 3 seconds and this extra frame is not included anymore. You can see the layer after the keyframe. Let's take an example. Let's go, for example, to 1 second over here and take the last keyframe of the time remap and click and drag and put it on the time indicator. Now notice what's happening. The keyframes here are going from 0 to 3 seconds. So actually you keyframe the time, one at 0, one at 3 seconds. And you keyframe this time for 1 second in the timeline. This is 0, this is 1 second. So actually you remapped here the 3 seconds to 1 second, as simple as this. Here you are. Of course, if you play your animation now, you notice it's quite faster. So actually this is time remap. Through keyframes, you can remap the time of the layer into any time on the timeline. For example, if I take the last keyframe and put it at 6 seconds over here, something like this. Now, what happened exactly? The first keyframe is at 0, the value is 0, and the second keyframe, the value is 3 seconds. So this layer is going to play from 0 to 3 seconds in 6 seconds. So actually you remapped the 0 to 3, that's 3 seconds, to 0 to 6, that is 6 seconds. So you remapped 3 seconds into 6 seconds. If you come over and play your animation, you notice now it's going to take 6 seconds to play the 3 seconds of your pre-comp here or of your layer. This is very powerful. Now, you notice that you can play with it. For example, let's take this one and just put it here. So now we have from 0 to 3 seconds on the keyframes in 1 second. But let's change the value. Let's make 0 to 1 second. So we have remapped 1 second into 1 second. Let's come after 12 frames and put it at 3 seconds just to play around. Now a new keyframe has been created, of course. So it's playing normally because the remapping is the same, but then in 12 frames here, you have remapped, from 1 second to 3 seconds. Here you are. So it's quite nice to play with it and decide exactly how you want your animation to work. By the way, guys, if you delete the keyframes, the time remap will disappear. So you have to go back and put it, okay? Enable it again. Now let's reverse this animation. From 0 to 3, that's okay. And we want it to stay sometime on the screen. Of course, we have to readjust this keyframe to put it at 3 seconds because we have reapplied time remap. Let's say after 1 second, you want it to be stable. Okay, nothing happens. The viewer can see it. So, of course, you keyframe. Now, you also keyframed at 3 seconds, right? The previous one was at 3 seconds, 3 seconds. So, there is nothing happening here. Let's go back, for example, at 6 over here and remap it to 0. So notice here what happened. You went from 3 seconds to 0 seconds. So you remapped the 3 seconds to 2 seconds, but also you remapped inverse or towards the beginning of the composition. If you press the space bar, here you are, it's coming out. You see how easy it is? Very simple to use the time remap. This is not only useful to inverse the animations or to inverse a video or to play with a video if you like, but also it is important to use when you are tweaking, for example, the animation. Let's say you created this animation, it's pretty slow or pretty fast, and you want to work on it. Well, if you come back to the pre-comps, there's a lot of work to do there just to adjust the keyframes. Any more change, you spend another day doing it. Time remap will allow you to set the timing, speed up, slow down, and stop the animation the way you would like using keyframes. We remap 0 to 3 in 1 second. Then let's take this keyframe and give it some long time to stay in, like around 1 second. Then we come to 3 seconds and we take the last keyframe, which is 0 now. It's time remapping inverse. Here you are. You have now fast in, stay for a second, fast out. Cool. So you want it slower in, you take these guys and just you move them over here. So it comes slow, you notice the remapping, stays in, and comes fast. Now also you can select your keyframes and obviously easy ease them. Okay, so you're easy easing the animation in time, and that's pretty cool. So you have here the graph, you can come over and play with it, the way you would like, something like this. Okay, let's see the results. Pretty cool, stable, go out fast. I will select all the keyframes, clicking on time remap. Then I will control right click on one. They are all back to normal, no Bezier. So I will go to 2 seconds just over here. And let's delete these keyframes and do it the right way. Now I will remap it to 3. Okay, so 2 seconds in 3. Let it go for 1 second on the screen so people can read it. Then I keyframe again on the same time. And then come back after 2 seconds, for example, that will be 5. And put it back to 0. And of course, I created a very nice animation. I adjusted the way I like, and I can, do all kind of manipulation here. This is final. This is how you do time remap to inverse an animation. Now let's go to the last keyframe just over here and bring the work area end to this keyframe. And of course, you want to trim your comp to work area. Let's go back to the main. It's pretty cool. Notice it has become shorter. No problem. Take the last one and put it. And notice now the animation is so cool and so easy to inverse with the time remap. And welcome to time stretch. It's gonna be a very nice lecture and you're going to play with time. And I hope really you train a bit and you find the best methods for you. You wanted to master this one because it's very helpful when you're working mainly with pre-comps and layers that you want to extend the time or shorten the time. Let's start here. We are still in the project file start-timegamesmotiongraphics.aap. So you could open the project and follow along with me. You can use the composition main, okay, because it's the initial composition. I will use main time stretch and then you can look at it when we complete. To bring in the time stretch in your timeline, you go to the last icon just over here. And it's expand or collapse the in-out duration stretch bands. Click on it. Now really it has taken a lot of space over here. What you can do is to decide, okay, you don't want the parent and link, you right click, say hide this. And you don't want the switches, really we don't want them now. You right click and say hide this. So we have space to work here. In the column for time stretching you have the in point, the out point, the duration and the stretch. Let's take a layer over here. The in point is at 7. You can click on the in point and write another time, for example 12 seconds. That will mean the in point now will jump to 12 seconds. If you click OK, here you are. I will undo this. The out point will operate the same, but for the out point. You can decide that the out point of this layer be, for example, at 22 seconds. Okay, so you're taking the out point to 22 seconds and you click OK. Here you are, it jumped to 22 seconds. You can also change the stretch factor. Now I would like you to click and drag immediately. Don't click once, click and drag. If you click and drag, you notice that you can increase the time by increasing the stretch factor. Actually, you are slowing down the video by giving it more time. Here you are. You notice that the in point is not moving, it's fixed, and the out point that is moving. You see how? So you can now increase the time, so you decrease the speed. Notice it's so slow. Or you can decrease the speed. I will take it like this. If you press shift, it will go very fast. Okay. So here you are. Now you are decreasing the time and increasing the speed. If you play now, the animation is pretty speedy. And notice it's the out point that went in and out. Okay. I'm undoing again and again. Let's go to this layer now. You can actually keep on decreasing until it becomes negative. And here you are. Now actually you have inversed the layer. You can see the blue lines coming up, the oblique one. It means this layer has been inversed. But if you notice here, you are inversing with more precision. When we right clicked and went to time reversed layer, it was like 100% of the layer. But here you're talking about a certain percentage. You can make it, for example, longer, 142% inversed. It has more time now, and it's inverse. I will undo this too. This is very fine to come and play over with the stretch here and in and out duration. The in and out duration are very useful. For example, let's come over here and zoom in. Okay. Now you're focused, you're working over here and so on, and then you decide that the layer 1 should come over to 23 seconds. You want the in point to jump to 23 seconds. Okay, so your solution here is to zoom out, grab the layer, zoom in or something, come to 22 seconds and put it here. The best solution here is just bring up. Okay, it's coming in. You click and you say, okay, 23 seconds or 22 seconds, whatever you like. And click OK. So the in point now has jumped to 22 seconds. And then you can continue your work. So actually, it's pretty practical. Let's undo this and then zoom out. Playing with the time stretch here is very nice, but really is not accurate. The best way is to just click. Click once, and here you are. The time stretch panel has opened. You can always see the original duration of the layer here. Now you have the stretch factor. The stretch factor is this over here, and it's a percentage here. You can decide, okay, I want to change the stretch factor to 50. Notice the new duration has changed, and now it's 3 seconds and 14 frames. You can make it 80, whatever figure you want, and it's changed. But practically what we would like to do is to come over to this 7 seconds and say, okay, make it 3 seconds. Okay, and you have here the held in place. Remember we said the in point was not moving, and it's the out point was jumping around. We'll see that in details in a second. So if you click OK now, stretch your layer to 3 seconds only. And then you can come back and decide, okay, let me put it back at 100%. So you go over here, not caring about the time. And you click OK. Now, let's take the same layer again and click on the stretch again. And let's see what happens when you hold the layer out point. Now, if you choose layer out point to be held, it is the layer in point that's going to start jumping around left and right. For example, if you make it 5 seconds, or let's make it 2 seconds just to show you, you notice now the out point is going to be fixed and the in point is going to jump. Pretty practical, right? And of course your layer now is very speedy. Let's undo this and see the last option. The last option is current frame. This is very interesting. The current frame is where the timeline indicator is set. If you decide to make your new duration, for example, 15 seconds, okay, and you want it to stretch from the current frame, if you click OK, notice what happened. The in point jumped and the out point jumped also, and the current frame did not move. The time added on the in point side and the out point side is equal, so it stretched in both ways, and this is very nice. Sometimes you can do lots of tricks with it. I'll show you one, in fact. Let me show you this trick. I will bring the timeline indicator just over here and select all the layers. Then go and click on one of them. It really doesn't matter. And use the stretch over here. So what is held in place here? The current frame. Okay, I click out. Now I will click and drag the stretch, and you notice that you are stretching in all the layers towards the frame that is held. And this is very practical to shorten your videos or your demo. Now, all of them are very speedy. I will undo that. Now, if you go to this side, okay, I will go to the out point of this layer, then select all the layers. If you stretch it now, notice what's happening. They're all going towards the frame that is held, and they are decreasing in time according to the factor here is 50%. Cool, guys. Of course, you can do the other way around. Here you make it longer and you say this is what I would like. Okay, it's hard. You can press Control or Command on the Mac to go very small steps or very small figures. Okay, now you adjusted that. It's coming for the whole composition. And notice this is quite helpful if you want to stretch your demo now. Okay, you have done them all, reverse animations, and you're set, but you wanted a bit slow, the boss wanted slower, or the customer, then here you are. In just a couple of clicks, you really did it, instead of going to the compositions and doing a lot of work. So time stretch is extremely efficient, is a kind of habit to work with. It is challenge time and practice time also. it's time for you to practice what you have learned in this section. I wanted to anchor within your knowledge. I want it to become like a habit, something that you know very well, because time remapping and the layer reverse is very important. Now, do you remember this project we did in the beginning of the course? It was mainly your first project. Well, if you notice here, this project is only an entry. There is no exit. This stays on the screen. Of course, at the time you couldn't reverse it. But now that you know how to reverse it, I would like you to create a reverse animation. You can pick up this project to start working from the practice activity and challenges folder that you have downloaded, and you can start with time games MG start challenge. So you start with this one, and then later on you can see of the final one that I will do with you. But it's very important that you start creating the reverse animation. Now you have learned the three of them: the keyframe method, the time reverse layer, and the time remapping. So you will want to choose any one of them. In fact, you want to do both of them if you like to, just training, and decide exactly what will be your style. So it's very important that you really dive in and create these animations. They are very simple, very easy, but it's a great practice. After Effects is not only about learning techniques, it's also about learning how to think, how to work out around things, and make sure that you are doing the right job at the right time. So the second solution we have for reversing this animation is using time remap. Now, why am I showing you both of them, and why I'm insisting so much on this work? It's very important. Later on, you will say, thank you, Loai, this was really useful. If, of course, you want to become an After Effects expert. So now let's see how we can reverse this animation using time remap, and choose the one that you like most, which is easier for you. For me, it's time remap. Cool. Let's select the original composition, press Ctrl D, so I have number 3 now, and drop it in the folder. And of course, open it. Sometimes you will forget to open it, and then you will work on the old ones. So here is the same story. We're gonna go to 4 seconds and select all our layers. This is Ctrl A or Command A on the Mac, and then Alt or Option on the Mac, and right square bracket. Here you are. And of course, you pre-compose as usual. This is very easy, making sure that Adjust Composition is checked. And click OK. Here we are. Now let's apply time remap. Come to time. Enable time remapping. Here you are. So we have this famous keyframe here. I will just delete it because I know the end of the composition is at 4 seconds. Cool. I will come to 3 seconds and keyframe, and then put it at 4 seconds. So I have here the entry that's very beautiful. I want the viewer to look at it for 2 seconds only. That's enough before he gets bored. So I will come to 5 seconds. Okay, so 3 plus 2 is 5 seconds. I will keyframe again and leave the value at 4 seconds. It's simple. Then let's exit here with 1 second. It will be nicer. I will go plus 1 second, simple like this, and keyframe and put it at 0. Okay, simple. Let's see now my animation. Cool, coming in, not bad, speedy, I like it, stays, and whoop, it comes out. I like this one very much. Maybe you will think like, okay, you didn't give them much time here to view it, or the entry was, quite long. Well, you can select your keyframes and just move them to 7 like we did before. So, and the entry is longer now, it takes more time. If you like that, it stays a bit longer, and then it comes out very fast, the way you would like it. So I will undo this, because I like it like this. It's up to you now to do it the way you would like. Okay, guys, so this was pretty easy, much easier than the time reverse layer. It's up to you to choose your method. I would like you to be very good at both of them. Your challenge from that lecture is to reverse animate this project here. It's a very nice project that we have done earlier in the course. So I would like you to pick it up and start reversing the animation here. Let's say you're doing a slideshow here, and after some time there is another guy who comes in, another house with some other information, but maybe the same animation. I duplicated this project for you, so you can pick it from the challenge folder. To start creating the animation, the name of the project is Time Games MG for motion graphics Start Challenge. So you open the start one and you work with me. I will be saving this one, the final one, into Time Games MG Final and Challenge. To make sure things are tidy, I will create a folder and call it Time Games Challenge. I will take the original composition, which is open over here, duplicate it, so I have a second one, and just drop it inside the time game challenge. So I'm over here now, I'm working with motion graphics 2. Of course, you can rename it. Fine. Let's double click to open it, not forget that. And we close the previous one. So I want to reverse this animation. Well, let's think about the keyframe method. And no, I'm not doing the keyframe method. This is a lots of work. If you really want to become a great animator and a great visual effects artist, guys, get lazy. Get lazy in terms where do not do work that is extremely tedious. Instead, sit back and think about the easiest method you can get the results that you want. So here, copy-pasting keyframes is very tedious. So let's explore time, reverse layer, and the remap. These are two options you can work with. Over here, you notice that at 4 seconds, you are very safe to create a pre-comp so you can reverse the animation. There is nothing after that. Even 3 seconds is safe. But I will take 4 seconds. I like it. So I'll go to 4 seconds here to be precise. I write 400. I'm over here. Select all the layers. And of course, trim them with Alt or Option on the Mac and right square bracket. Here you are. Then I will right click, you know this method, and pre-compose. And I will click OK. So I have the pre-comp 1 inside the composition motion graphics 2. Let's do the first method, which is time reverse layer. I will of course select the layer, Ctrl D, and go to the layer that's on bottom, right click and say time reverse layer. Fine, let's take this layer and just push it outside. And just from here, let's play our animation. Okay, let's start distinguishing what we want to do. Not bad, it's okay. Let's say you want to stop it at 7. So this layer should move at 7. Let's open our times here. And what do you think, guys? Is this last one, is it the in point or the out point? Well, actually, guys, this is the in point over here. And on the left, you have the out point because you reverse the layer. So it just makes sense to come to the out point here, click on it, and put it at 700. Here you are. Now you have it much better. Cool. Now you need to cut them. You can decide where to cut them. Select the first one. I will use Alt or Option on the Mac and right square bracket. Select the one that is on bottom. Alt or Option on the Mac and left square bracket. Here you are. Then of course I have to zoom in at 100%. See exactly, you know, they are overlapping. We don't want this overlap. You can decide to take the top one to here, but you need to try it. Everything is perfect. Here you are. Let's come back. Let's go and play the animation. That's pretty cool until now. Waiting time is fine. Okay, this is very fine, but I don't like the speed here. Okay, the speed of removing it is too slow because it's nice to see it coming in, but after you saw it coming in and you're happy from it, you don't want to, you know, look at it another 3 seconds to come out. Maybe you want to speed up the exit. How do you do that? Well, you can use the time stretch here. It's very easy. Let's click on it. And what is the one that is holding in place? Is it the layer in point or the layer out point? You know now that this is the out point and this is the in point because the layer is reversed. So it's correct to say holding the layer out point. Cool. And now let's go up, meaning we are decreasing the time. Here you are. Notice how the out point is staying in the same place and the in point is moving. Okay, let's put it over here. This is an estimation. Let's play. And yep, it comes out much faster. I like that. So this is the first solution. Time reverse layer is pretty practical here, and we could speed up a bit the layer. Let's put that -50 to make it you know, quite cool. Okay, it's very okay here. In the next lecture we will use the time remap.